All children feel at one time or another that life is unfair, and often it's because of adults. The award-winning Mexican-American novelist, poet, short story writer, and essayist Sandra Cisneros captures this in her celebrated short story 11, which deals with universal childhood frustration with adults. Originally published in 1991, 11 is a popular staple on literature syllabi across America for its charm, universality, and rich language. Cisneros introduces readers to our young narrator through the girl's thoughtful contemplation of aging and birthdays. On her 11th birthday, Rachel observes that when you're 11, you're also 10, and 9, and 8, and 7, and 6, and 5, and 4, and 3, and 2, and 1. And when you wake up on your 11th birthday, you expect to feel 11, but you don't. Following her observations, our narrator laments being 11. If she were older, she believes, she would have been better able to avoid the event that single-handedly ruined her 11th birthday, her teacher wrongfully accusing her of owning an ugly red sweater. Rachel describes how Mrs. Price, her teacher, questioned the class about who left the red sweater in the cloakroom for months. According to our narrator, the sweater is ugly, which is probably why nobody would claim it. Sylvia Saldivar, the quintessentially annoying classmate, suggested that the sweater belonged to Rachel. Mrs. Price immediately agreed. Flustered, Rachel tried to explain that the sweater wasn't hers, but couldn't manage a proper response. "That's not, you're not mine," I finally say in a little voice that was maybe me when I was 4. Mrs. Price dismissed Rachel's denial, placing the sweater on Rachel's desk, and even more maddeningly, claimed that she remembered Rachel wearing it. Rachel, powerless against her teacher's claim, attempted to physically distance herself from the sweater, scooting it over to the very corner of her desk. This small act of defiance irritated Mrs. Price, who insisted that Rachel wear the sweater. Rachel obeyed, but burst into tears, weeping into her own arms as she released the built-up frustration. Before lunch, Phyllis Lopez remembered the sweater was actually hers. Rachel returned it, noticing that Mrs. Price pretends like everything is okay. Rachel muses that though she will celebrate with a cake and her family will wish her a happy birthday, it's already too late for her to have a happy birthday. She ultimately wishes she were older, because in her mind, being older would mean escape. Let's take a look at some major themes of 11. One major theme of this story is coming of age. Cisneros opens the short story with our narrator's astute observation on aging. Rachel has already noticed that birthdays are symbolic, but do not literally represent emotional evolution. Rachel has noticed that her mother cries, and gently reminds readers that it's okay for adults to cry. She is aware that human beings can feel different levels of vulnerability at all ages. However, even though Rachel seems to know that people can feel 3, even as adults, she also seems to hope that as she becomes older, she will become more powerful and better able to avoid negative emotions, either by defending herself more articulately or by physically distancing herself. For children especially, birthdays are often characterized by happiness, gifts, and surprises. Rachel's 11th birthday does not meet these expectations, causing disappointment, which often marks adulthood. Cisneros captures the raw emotion and angst that adolescents feel in the face of injustice, the sting of disappointment, and the uncertainty of navigating the adolescent years. Another major theme of this story is power and authority. Mrs. Price's character is impatient and proud, and through Rachel's eyes, she is definitely the story's antagonist. From an adult perspective, Mrs. Price might just be a tired teacher attempting to tidy a messy cloakroom, feeling that getting rid of the sweater was more important than determining its true owner. To Rachel, however, Mrs. Price is an authority figure who has decided on a whim to sentence her to severe public humiliation and who is intolerant of her smallest protest. Rachel is frustrated that simply because Mrs. Price is an adult, she is right, when Rachel knows she is actually wrong. What's more, Mrs. Price is too proud to apologize to Rachel for her mistake, further demonizing her character. Rachel believes that part of growing up means having the power to defend oneself against abuse of authority. In this case, to reject an ugly sweater erroneously assigned to her. She feels disappointed in herself that she could not better defend herself against Mrs. Price, maintaining a belief that had she been older, she would have been better prepared to challenge authority. Cisneros is examining the power dynamics between adults and children and encouraging readers to examine when and how we can exercise power. It's important to recognize the significant writer's crafts used in this short story. Voice. Cisneros's character has a distinct adolescent voice, created by her familiar and relaxed word choice and playful choice of figurative language. Figurative language. Cisneros uses a series of similes to describe her feelings of frustration, despair, and longing to escape. She also uses vivid imagery to describe Rachel's emotional breakdown. Repetition. Cisneros repeats phrases to emphasize theme and to characterize Rachel as an adolescent. Sandra Cisneros is an award-winning American writer of Mexican descent. 11 is a popular short story in which the narrator's 11th birthday is ruined when her teacher forces her to take responsibility for an ugly sweater that isn't hers. Unable to cope with the injustice, she bursts into tears in front of her classmates and wishes she were older. Cisneros is examining coming of age as well as power and authority in this story.